Welcome to MS ELAR's Professional Development for a 10-Day Writing Plan. This strategic plan was developed from Lead Board's Rec and Review. MS ELAR adopted the format of Lead Board's review process, making adaptations where appropriate and necessary. This presentation and all of the resources we discussed will be located on the MS ELAR website under Professional Development. The Lead Board app is a free resource that includes the strategies playlist we will use for our sample plan. Additionally, the app has thinking stems, quick checks, and many more helpful tools that you can use in your classroom at any time. If you don't already have the app, please take a moment to download it. Pause the video now if you need to. For help with this app, please contact your campus literacy specialist. In preparing our students to take the STAR, we know that the reality is we cannot reteach the entire curriculum. There is no new in review. A repeat is not a reteach, and we cannot bore kids into learning. This 10-day plan incorporates an engaging, TEKS-based review where teachers can strategically focus on the 3 highly tested TEKS clusters for writing: composition, revising, and editing. Here is an overview of what the 10-day plan could look like. You will begin with a tour of knowledge and spend 3 days on each TEKS cluster. The tour of knowledge is an activity to set the stage for the following 9 days of instruction by providing an overview for your students. Additionally, this activity gets them engaged in the content and lets you know the direction the instruction will take. You can find this activity on the Lead Board app or website in the Rehearsal and Practice section of the Strategies playlist. Here is a model of what the tour of knowledge could look like. First, we place 3 posters around the room labeled with each of the TEKS clusters. We have our posters divided into 3 sections: engaging activities, words, and confusions. Doing this will help your students develop their ideas for the posters and will notify you of the strengths and areas of concern. Next, we divide students into 3 groups, providing each group with a different colored marker. Groups then rotate through each of the posters, adding what they remember about the TEKS cluster study from the school year. After your students complete the tour of knowledge, some basic diagnostic information has been gathered. You will know which academic vocabulary words they remember, previous lessons you can refer back to while reviewing the genre, and what is the most confusing things about the TEKS cluster for your students. This information will prompt you to make adjustments in instruction in order to meet the needs of your students. The remaining 9 days will be divided into the other TEKS clusters. Planning begins with Lead Board's QuickStart Guides, located on the MS ELAR website and the Lead Board website under Teacher Resources. The QuickStart Guides are a one-stop shopping for planning and focus on the mistakes students may make in each of the areas of writing. The demands of the TEKS clusters vary by what students must be able to do when composing, editing, and revising. The QuickStart Guides also contain relevant vocabulary and past STAR prompts or selections. You will use the QuickStart Guide and student data to guide in planning when choosing instructional strategies. For each of the 3 TEKS clusters, plan 3 days of instruction using Lead Board's set list template. The plan for each day in the TEKS cluster will focus on a selection and instructional strategies to think through the error patterns or mistakes. To prepare for the TEKS cluster review, you will begin by choosing 1 prompt, 1 revising selection, and 1 editing selection. For each, look at the Learning from Mistakes box on the QuickStart Guides that you notice are common trends in your classroom. Add those learning mistakes to the error pattern box on the set list. You will choose 2 Lead Board strategies for each of the error patterns. For the composition TEKS cluster, spend about 3 days on the composition process, where kids analyze prompts, brainstorm ideas, and put together a controlling idea. They may also begin a rough draft. Focus on the mistakes you highlighted on your QuickStart Guides that you want to correct with your kids. Then, have them practice correcting those mistakes in a targeted way in their own compositions, as well as on practice passages from release STAR selections. In our example, we have selected having difficulty generating an idea as the error pattern from the QuickStart Guide for Day 1. Next, using the Leadboard playlist, we have selected 2 strategies that students can use to practice. First, we chose Mystery Bag and Who Am I? During Mystery Bag, students will be exposed to 4 sample prompts, where they will collaborate to generate ideas. Then, for Who Am I?, they will mix around the room to guess the prompt with their peers. Day 2 will focus on not understanding the prompt and confusing genres or intent. The 2 strategies that will support students' understanding are Idea Shuffle and Triple Play. For Idea Shuffle, students can practice writing a controlling idea to various prompts. For Triple Play, students can find their matching part to the prompt page. Then, they can choose a prompt to quick draft. To wrap up the composition cluster, we have selected not developing a strong beginning, middle, and end to make a piece coherent. We have chosen Cut It Apart and Sketch in Chunks for students to practice. During Cut It Apart, students will have the opportunity to discover what is missing from a release STAR essay. Sketch in Chunks will allow students to sketch the organizational patterns of each paragraph. For the Revising Teaks cluster, we spend about 3 days on revision. You can do activities with their own rough drafts or something they've written in the past. You can also use some of the STAR release passages to work on revision in a targeted way. In our example, we have selected Not Deeply Understanding the Writer's Intent as the error pattern from the QuickStart Guide for Day 1. Next, using the Leadboard playlist, we have selected 2 strategies that students can use to practice. First, we chose Tabletop Tweet and Each One Teach One. During Tabletop Tweet, students will read a partner's essay or a STAR-released essay and create the tabletop tweet that requires them to look at the text in different ways. Then, Each One Teach One can be used to practice multiple-choice questions that address writer's intent. Day 2 will focus on not clearly recognizing the beginning, middle, or end and how it connects to coherence. The 2 strategies that will support students' understanding are Mystery Sequence, Resequence, and Make the Case. For Mystery Sequence, students can practice organizing the parts of an essay. For Make the Case, students again will practice the multiple-choice revision questions. To wrap up the revision cluster, we have selected Providing Irrelevant Support to fill in the missing blanks. We have chosen Just the Facts and ABCD Reasoning for students to practice. During Just the Facts, students will have the opportunity to select facts that support the controlling idea in an essay. ABCD Reasoning will allow students to practice the multiple-choice revision questions. The focus for the final 3 days is on the Editing Teaks cluster. Like the Revising Teaks cluster, you can do activities with their own rough drafts or something they've written in the past. And you can also use some of the STAR release selections to work on editing in a more targeted way. In our example, we have selected Editing Grammar to the Way They Speak as the error pattern from the QuickStart Guide for Day 1. Using the Leadboard playlist, we have selected Matching Double Trouble and Rock and Roll Item Review. Students will notice the editing rules. Then, in Rock and Roll Item Review, students will practice with the multiple-choice editing questions. Day 2 will focus on confusing complete thought with run-ons and fragments, and writing run-ons when writing complex sentences. The 2 strategies that will support students' understanding are Card Sort and Make the Case. For Card Sort, students can practice sorting sentences. For Make the Case, students will practice with the multiple-choice editing questions. And finally, for Day 3, we have selected Overuse of Commas and Not Understanding the Convention Rule. The strategies we have chosen for this cluster are Pick Up the Slip Up and IQ Slapdown. Pick Up the Slip Up will allow students to practice identifying sentences that are written incorrectly. During IQ Slapdown, students will have the opportunity to discuss wrong answers, distractors, and correct answers for multiple-choice questions. After the 10 days are complete, students will have participated in targeted, strategic instruction that encompasses composition, revising, and editing. Students will have had an opportunity to work with authentic writing while collaborating and engaging activities that review multiple-choice questions. This professional development session will be archived on the MS ELAR website. For support with this 10-day plan, please contact your campus literacy specialist or Nita Green. Thank you.